Welcome to XPhys Biz with me, Aaron King, a podcast for exercise physiologists and health professionals wanting to grow and scale in business. Welcome to XPhys Biz with me, Aaron King. Today's question is it getting harder for allied health clinics to do business? I think, like any good answer, it depends. It's not really an easy question to answer, but for those of us with their ears on the ground, like myself and my business overall, it's definitely becoming harder to maintain or to service the same types of clients and to provide enough value. People are definitely looking for more value in what they're doing, and then considering whether some types of services are necessary. In my view, allied health is a necessary service. I would probably say that as an allied health professional, and I value my health, as many other people do. But at the same time, others will see, their rent, eating as probably a higher priority than their health, the health of their children before themselves. And that's all fair enough. So allied health clinics and gyms can be affected, and especially those higher end services or those middle range services that can be affected, like there's functional fitness closing down on every corner at the moment, because that's that high rate, I guess, or moderate rate service where people don't see the value anymore. And as well, it became saturated with that type of business. So that's another effect of it. And probably the next thing is going to be acai. I reckon, especially in Western Sydney, there's been a bunch of those pop up. Like anything, it was frozen yogurt, it was functional fitness, it was acai. Depends, it's going to be another business, possibly bubble tea, whatever. There's an oversaturation, then it dies down and a number of them remain, but it settles to a level. It happened with CrossFit in the past as well, and it probably happened as well with 24/7 gyms, where there are a couple of brands that have taken over, but some of the independent brands have either been taken over or not lasted, or they've had to find a different niche, so they're not really competing evenly with the 24/7 gyms that just bring you in all access, no service, which helps a number of people, but it probably doesn't help anywhere near the number of members that they actually have. But that's their business model, and sometimes people choose that because it's a lower cost rather than paying the higher cost. And in my view, paying a higher cost for something that you actually turn up to and you get the benefit from and you get the accountability and all the rest of the things is, for many people, a lot better. You might be paying double a commercial gym membership, but you might be getting double the value if you're actually going twice as much and doing the work and having someone that can actually help you. Anyway, I digress. So some business types have increased and improved, but the ones that have been affected are the ones that people don't see as a necessity, which basically is anything that is not food or shelter. So there are some things that are being made easier. I would say, access to tech, easier to start a business. All the information to start a business is online, as well as access to resources. So, how to start it, where to start it, what you need to do step by step. Like, every bit of information is found online, but the hard part is putting it into a system that you can actually follow and set up. And that's where you can find an entire uni degree online, but people still go to uni. One, you might need the degree to do a certain thing, but if you're just looking for the information, people will still go attend a course or get a mentor or things like that, because they can put it in a structured and systemized way so you can actually learn it. Because having the information is great, or being able to access the information is great, but being able to put in a system that you can actually learn from it, take it in and do it at the end of the day is equally important, or actually more important. So what's being made easier? The access to resources, AI. Maybe AI can or will have an impact, other than just getting spam and scam emails that are clearly AI, that are transplanting your information from whatever online account they took it from. Online accessibility for services. and even just things like being able to build a website, build your socials, for having a phone. Single location is not needed. Like before, where you'd have to have a website, a bricks and mortar location, and or you'd be seen as more legitimate. I don't think in all businesses it matters as much. People are accepting of maybe a smaller website having a Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, or depending upon the type of service that it is, that you may not have to have everything available to you. I do think that having a website, having socials, and having multiple things does improve legitimacy, but you don't need all of them at all times. And especially there's probably like food businesses, less likely to have a main website, and they might have an Instagram, food trucks, things like that. But if you're a brick and mortar facility, you probably want a website where people could click, contact you, socials. So you don't need it, but it probably helps to have all of those things. And it's probably a lot easier to do in the current market, being able to build those things with sort of drag and drop. So there are many things that are being made easier, and it's mainly around tech, AI, access to resources, easier to start, easier to systemize, and easier to follow a structure to do it. And then the hard part comes is actually doing the business and getting enough clients. So probably what makes things harder, I would say, well, cost of living is probably the major one, and it's pre-COVID, post-COVID, it probably changed a lot. There was obviously pre-COVID, and then was, I would say, normal. As far as business, we had a lot more groups running. We had some open gym access. We had some PT type members, I guess you would call it, or our rehab type members, which were anything for all clients, which were NDIS, work cover, CTP, all of those normal things. Like all the third party aren't really affected, but we had a lot more pay as you go where people were paying their own money and they were comfortable doing that. And then the cost of living went up post COVID. People still had a fair bit of extra cash to play with post COVID because, you know, when things are locked down, they maybe did a lot less, things like that. Things went up, but it wasn't affected. People still had a bit more in the bank. But then when the multinationals, you know, Coles, Woolies, and whatever else organization, they bumped up their prices due to supply chain, and then they since have not dropped them, even though they're probably making a massive bank. And I don't think I'm remiss to say that many of these large multinational companies will bump up their prices because of some sort of issue or supply chain issue or perceived issues, or just because they can and they've got a monopoly. And then if the supply chain issues aren't there anymore, then they won't drop them because they're like, oh, well, people have just gotten used to it. So then we're not spending any less money. We're not saving money as a community. You know, everyone's different, but we're not saving money. We're just spending it on less things, as the average person is. Recently, the interest rates have dropped. So again, that may change positively. People are maybe starting to spend a bit more because they've maybe got another couple of $100 per month in the bank, and that might positively affect allied health and gyms and fitness, where people are like, okay, well, I can start spending that again, because outside of food and shelter, I would say health is in and around that high level needs. You know, not everyone thinks that way, but I do, I guess. CPI, so cost of living went up, CPI went up. If you're a business owner, you know, there's increased super rates that have gone up at the change of financial year. Then there's another 0.5% there. There's, you know, increased salaries, which I think went up 3 to 3.5%. If you're already paying above award, it may not have affected you. But if you were paying on the award, then you would have had to increase the salaries by 3.5% for most of the awards. Yeah. So all of these things affect it over time, and then they're compounded on each other. So cost of living for your clients, they may consider whether they need the service. And what I've found when speaking to other business owner friends that are not even in health, like someone that I know, it does glass repairs, and they're in a glazier business. And he said, well, people are just waiting longer. So they're taping up their windshield or taping up their house or things like that. Or it's a small crack where they used to do something about it sooner. They're waiting for it to, you know, have a irreversible effect before they do anything about it. So not only are they not spending, and trying not to spend where they might have before, but they're also taking longer to spend, making sure that it's absolutely necessary to do that. And that's understandable for people that are obviously being affected by the cost of living. So we can switch and say, well, I need to probably focus on the third party clients. In the past episodes, I've said, well, you don't want to just rely on third party because at any one time the government can change rules, and they have. Obviously, recently the NDIS rates changed for many of the allied health providers. Like the EP rate hasn't gone up since 2019, and they dropped the physio, OT, podiatry rate by $10. And I was thinking, well, it's still above the EP rate, but at the same time, I'm like, well, welcome to the club, because it's happened a lot with EPs in the past, but the other allied health haven't had these same kind of effects for some reason. We're in it together, so we don't want to go, well, we've had this same thing issue before, but then now it's just your turn. We should all be fighting the good fight together. So anyway, where was I? So yeah, cost of living, and I've said in the past that don't rely on third party because anything can change, as has been evidenced by NDIS. Like a couple of years ago, EPs were getting paid twice as much as today for their work cover sessions, and we were able to do an hour rather than just half an hour. But then they have made it similar across the board. And although in the work cover system, physios, EPs, OTs, whoever else is there, I don't think OTs are there. Anyway, they've changed the system so that EPs would generally do a little bit more in like an exercise type environment, where physios might have a different approach. Some physios might have a different approach, or that sort of acute approach to whatever injury they have. So their treatment might be different or able to be shorter. So then EPs are affected there. So we will get affected by those changes that happen in the third party scheme. And I've said, don't rely on that. You're better off diversifying and also ensuring that you can get a number of private clients. And previously, a number of years ago, I said, well, you should focus more on private clients because people are paying their own money and they're choosing to spend that, and you're not affected by the whatever government organization decides to change the rules. But at the moment, now it's kind of switched from 5 years ago, where private clients are affected, but maybe the third party schemes, although some of them have dropped, some of them have changed, they probably haven't dropped as much as private clients are willing to pay or can afford. I wouldn't necessarily willing to pay because many of them want to and understand, but they just physically can't. So that's another effect, is we've shifted to focus some of our marketing efforts still on the private clients and people that are paying their own money for the services, both for, one-on-one clients, for general gym, PT, rehab, all of this sort of stuff, as well as group training and other things. But it sort of ebbed and flowed. We've found that anytime the interest rate goes up, you'll find that there are a couple of clients that can't continue with the service, but again, it's recently dropped, or I think stayed the same since the last rate change. So there's been a slight positive there in that sense. So we've found that when rates change, people change, but then obviously the rate doesn't change for the third party systems as quickly as the interest rates might. So maybe you want to focus on some of your marketing efforts and see third party clients, because at the moment in 2025, that's less affected than the private clients that are getting affected. So I don't, in the past I've said private clients, and then now I'm saying, well, maybe third party, but I think the real answer is somewhere in the middle, and do both if that's your business model and that's what you can do. So I would say that that's probably the main important thing moving forward, is adjusting it to what the market is doing and see it in advance to ensure that you're not leaving it too late. So if you're being affected by the private clients not being able to attend your services often, then you might need to switch to third party, and that, or vice versa. Maybe your third party is affected because you were seeing a bunch of NDIS participants, but then your rate dropped because the NDIS decided that you're getting paid too much. That's not the case, but when they're comparing it to Medicare rates, which are a shorter service, which are a different service, which don't require as much investment and work for that, then they're using false information to decrease some rates. And that's been said in the public, so I don't think I'm saying anything out of step with what's being said publicly as well. But organizations will do what they do, so it's important for us to try to do our best and adjust the sales according to what's happening, control what we can control, and go, what can't we control? We still want to fight the good fight and say, well, we deserve better as health professionals as a total, but we can't, we might not be able to change it day to day. So we just got to go, okay, what can we control? We can control who we market to, what kind of services we offer, the value that we provide to clients to ensure that we can pay the bills. And then if we can pay the bills, then we can obviously help more clients. So what can we do? Well, we can either choose to charge more to maintain it, because I know over the last 18 months, our business costs have gone up 25 to 30%. So it's significantly higher than CPI because everything went up together. The cost of doing business, the rents went up astronomically for the facilities. Any services that you're getting or any subscriptions, they've went up quite significantly over the last couple of years. So for a business, it might have gone up 25, 30, maybe even more, up to 50%. So you can either charge more or absorb more overheads, but how long can you realistically do that? So I'd love to know your thoughts on what's maybe getting easier in allied health clinics, what's maybe getting harder, and what you think you can do about it. Because there are things that are getting easier. There are things there's access to services, to support that's getting easier. We can market directly using online and offline. As well, so some things are harder, some things are easier, but we just need to adjust. So it's not good and bad, because if we focus on what we can't control, then we're not going to have a good time. So we just need to focus on what we can control and learn ourselves and do better. Business isn't always easy, but it's rewarding at the end of the day. So cost of living went up, prices change, things change, but there are many things that have become easier. So I'd love to know your thoughts on what you can do, whether you have decided to charge more, maintain more, see more clients, do more volume, add more services, diversify. Like at the end of the day, we've decided to diversify some of our services, broaden our marketing scope, both online and offline, and we've made some changes and we're able to move forward. So I've just looked at the market of what's happening, what looks to be happening both in our industry and also outside of the industry. I don't think we need to see just peers or competitors of what's happening there before you take action. We need to look outside it, because business is business, regardless what it is. So I think it's important to see both internally, see what you're doing as a business, as a person, as a small business owner, as a large business owner, or as a self-employed person, and then deciding from there what you need to do, take action, reach out if you have any questions. But I'd really love to know your thoughts of what you think. You've just listened to another episode of XFizBiz. If you've got some value out of the content, make sure that you like, share, follow, or subscribe. Until next time.